So the weld training it can be a challenge right now from the OE perspective because a lot of the training is shut down. But Kristen, you've been doing some research over the last couple of years, and you've discovered some things, and we've come up with a solution for it.
Yeah.
And so now's the announcement
time, the drum roll, right?
Yes.
So we spent 2 years. Jason spent a year on this project with me. I spent a year looking at it ahead of him. And here was the problem. We have never had at our fingertips so much information as we do now, and we're still doing it wrong. And we're doing it wrong over and over and over. And this isn't about something that we could say, well, I'm not getting, the insurer doesn't pay me for this, or I don't get compensated for that. If you get 14 hours to put the quarter panel on, that's the book time. That 14 hours is to put the panel on properly.
Right.
So we had this gap. There was this gap between information being available. Over here, I'm individually training technicians and working with coupons. Right? That's my Canadian, right? So I'm working with the coupons and they're welding, and then we come back to the middle and we were still getting it wrong. So the shops we were inspecting were not untrained shops. They were not backyard shops. These were high-end, well-trained, had been to everything that they could go to, and it's still wrong. And so what's the gap? So Jason comes on and we start talking about the gap, and I think we solved it, Jason. So.
We did. So what we're going to do is we're here to announce today the release of an OEM-specific virtual welding training, coaching, testing program.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a little bit into the details around it, but this has been an exciting project for me to work on. I think it is desperately needed. We just went through all these OEM procedures, right? And you saw so many variables in there. So we wanted a way to, number one, teach technicians where to find that information for each different vehicle manufacturer. And number two, train them on how to make those different welds, because if I'm working on a Toyota vehicle, for example, there's no reason for me to do a butt joint with backing, because I'm not going to do that weld.
Right.
Conversely, if I'm working on a vehicle that doesn't have an open butt joint like Toyota does, that really should be maybe part of that OE specific training.
Or a lap weld type of weld.
Our European certified program, so what Larry was doing, and one of the things that we didn't have the problem a lot with these shops was that when you went to OE training, they taught the technicians how to do the research.
Yep.
The research is required in the certification, so the technician has to prove they've done the research in the file to stay compliant with the program, and then the technician has to apply it. So that's really what that bridging the gap is okay, this works.
Yep.
Let's take it max.
Well, every training class they make you as a group, like me and Chris would have to look up the B-pillar replacement
Right.
and then explain it to you guys. And then we got to physically do it. That's part of the program.
Right.
The welding training program, the welding test, you don't look up anything. You go in there and you just do your welds. That's a test. But that test, along with the physical, hands-on welding in the thing and looking up the procedures, encompasses everything together.
But we can't be physical and hands-on and still be... It just doesn't work.
Right.
So for mass amounts of OEs.
It doesn't work.
Right, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So we've got a basic online, we're going to talk a little bit more, basic online course, OEM specific online course, coaching, and then a test that we're actually do the OEM procedures. And so this is available right now on the Collision Hub website.
Launched today. Actually, launched yesterday.
Launched yesterday.
Because I was afraid I wouldn't get up this morning.
Did a soft launch yesterday. So this program for one OEM, $449. If you want to add a second OEM, or maybe you don't pass the test the first time.
If you don't pass, and this is not everybody passes.
It's not everybody passes. So what we're going to do is, after we go through the online program, we're going to do a virtual coaching session with the technician.
So the online program, once you sign up, and it's per technician.
Yep.
So once your technician signs up, your technician will can at that time choose the OE that they plan on focusing in. If you don't know what OE you want to focus in, that's fine. We'll get with you after the coaching session. But you are going to take an online series of, is it 12 or 13? Or it's more than that. It's like 16.
There's 16 different modules.
There's 16 online
short
modules, very short, a couple minutes each, that the technician has to go through, and it covers a lot of what we covered today.
Contact tips, electrode wire, turning the machine on, reading the charts.
Right. So we want to know that you're up to speed on that with your welder, and you're going to tell us what your welder is too, so that when we get on the line with you for your coaching session, we're ready and prepared as well. And it may mean one of our coaches is better with Miller, while another coach is better with ProSpot, et cetera. But we're going to match up the coach with the OE and the welding equipment. And then one of the coaches is going to call them for this virtual session that you're showing.
Yep. And so what then we also got, we're going to have wireless headphones.
Yeah.
So we can watch that technician weld via Zoom meeting. We're going to send you a stand, so you can put the stand on there, mount your smartphone or your tablet on there, so we can have two-way communication. I can see you, you can see me, and I can talk to you. And we've tried this with a couple different shops during our beta testing. We can communicate. I can talk. You see Kyle here's made some plug welds. We were talking during it. I could tell, hey, it looks like you're going a little bit too slow. Looks like you're going a little bit too fast. Like, let's turn. I could see the backside of his welds and go, hey, let's turn that machine down a little bit. We walked through the whole settings. We went through the whole process, and it worked great.
And I love the screenshots from it. So the holder arm that's holding your camera, basically your phone, is probably, it's at least this long. It can clamp anywhere. You can turn it, move it. You know, you could clamp it to a B-pillar if you wanted to. You can clamp it to your welding cart like we've got there. So we're watching the technician work. They're in their headphones. Jason, you're talking to them the whole time they're welding and working. That's a picture showing us the welds.
Yep.
It's very much like we're there and coaching you through the entire session.
Yep.
Right? Now, at the end of this session, you're going to tell the tech whether he's ready to go or whether he needs more work, right?
Yep, that's the plan, yeah. So again, if we sit with the technician and go like, you know what, I want you to practice a little bit more. Let's practice for another week or two, and we'll come back. Because we don't have to physically come back. We can do another Zoom meeting, make sure that you're ready to go. But if I watch the technician and say, you know what, and I did the beta test with one of the Blazes technicians, and it was apparent, pretty quickly that, okay, this guy's dialed in. He knows what he's doing. We can jump right to the testing phase and say, okay, I want you to get the parts ready that you're going to be welding on, and let's jump to the testing phase. Now, when it comes to, here's kind of an overview of it. So we talked about the online basics course. We're going to have the online OEM course that, again, is going to kind of go through a lot of information that we went through today. Like, where do I find this Honda information? Where do I find this Fiat Chrysler information? And train you how to use the OEM information specific to welding. So not using the overall service information, but specific to welding.
So that's that gap between here's what I got to do as an estimator to write the repair plan, but that doesn't mean that the technician doesn't have a role. So now here's the gap in teaching technicians how to go to the 3 or 4 places they need to know how to put that rocker on or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then when it comes to the actual virtual testing, now what we're going to do is we're going to tell the technician, okay, they're going to be a form they have to fill out. Say, okay, I'm going to be making I'm going to be welding on a Nissan Sentra rocker panel. They need to go find that procedure, identify the material type and thickness of that, identify the joints that are going to be required for that vehicle manufacturer, the plug weld sizes, or whatever GMA MIG welding. We're only doing the mag welding to start with. We're not doing spot welding. We're only talking, and we're not doing MIG brazing to start with. We're just doing conventional mag welding on this. But they need to find all those OEM procedures and show us that they indeed pulled that procedure and says, hey, today, it's like a cooking show, like, you know, today I'll be making a open butt joint and a 6mm plug weld. So they need to validate that they've done that. So we're going to be using this on OEM material, so we're not going to be using coupons. It needs to be those donor vehicles or that part that I pulled off.
So now they're showing us that they know how to read and interpret and explain to me the procedures.
Yep.
They're going to be able to show me that they've actually got everything they need with their welder, the right gas mix, the right wire, they understand rollers, they understand all that. And then they're actually going to have to make their weld testing material out of the real stuff. So now they're going to be able to prove to me that they know how to make a test panel and do tear outs and everything. Yeah,
and we're going to visually inspect it, destructively test it with them right there. Make sure that they make those required welds. And if they're not successful, they're going to need to go back and practice. We're not just going to say, go do it again, go do it again, go do it again. We're going to have them practice. And we're going to come back, and when they pass that test, we're going to feel comfortable that we both know that they passed that test.
Right.
The other thing we're going to do is these will be Zoom meetings. We're going to record each session. We'll upload them into a file so that, number one, we can audit that shop if we need to. If someone says like, hey, are you sure about that? Or if we need to audit one of our coaches, we can go back and say, you know what, we're here. Larry's letting some things slide over here. Let's go look at the footage. We'll be able to go back and take a look at that. So again, it's a kind of an audit validation process.
It's transparency and completing the process. So I mean, I want to know if to do all this. Obviously, you two guys can't do it all, right? So if we add other coaches and somebody tells me, or I hear that rumor that these things aren't real, Kristen, they're letting people go, or I hear a rumor that your coach sucks, right? Which could happen. I'm going to go back and pull that tape and watch it. And if I don't like what they're doing, then they're gone. Because, I mean, this is life. To me, this is life death.
Yeah, we're not going to do rubber stamping.
I love that transparency process. Now, people ask me, Kristen, what can you really see through a camera, through a cell phone? Well, that's a great picture. I
Yeah.
mean, that's almost like I'm standing over his shoulder watching him do these welds.
That's a screen capture from Zoom.
From Zoom.
And then he took the camera. I can see the back side of it. He brought it around. We can see the first. We can measure it. We can look for that penetration. We can put it in a vise. We can do that visual inspection, destructive testing. And again, we've got that documented. And I'm super excited about this.
Well, to me, it's the gap. It's everything that was failing in the whys when every shop thought they had it. Now we're really focusing on the technician actually, not physically pulling the trigger and can you make a weld that passes on a coupon, passes a test. That's very important, and that's the pre-training you need to have before you get here. But now I want to know that you can actually do the specific weld on the specific material with the specific equipment that is required for this specific vehicle.
Yep.
And those are the big gaps. I mean, if I think about my technicians, you know, we got into this field because we didn't want to sit in a classroom, and we didn't want to read, you know, War and Peace, and we didn't want to do
Yep.
all these things. We wanted to work with our hands. And now this job has very much become a reading and research job.
Yeah.
It's almost separate from what it was 10 years ago. And we've just left this gap, and these technicians are standing in the middle of the shop going, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Right now that it's a Toyota and tomorrow I'm going to turn around and it's a Honda, what do I do now? And I think the European OEs have somewhat solved that because of the way they train y'all when y'all go in for welding testing. They make you do the research, and it's not feasible for some of these other OEs to do that same thing. This fits the gap.
Yep.
And I'm super excited about it.
I am too, and I know that we've got people watching online right now. They're thinking, yeah, but what are the OEs think about this?
Yeah, I
Well,
don't care.
we've reached out to several OEMs. We've had a handful of meetings already. They really like the fact that it's a couple things. They really like the fact that it's it's on their vehicle. So we're welding the material that's actually on their vehicles. They really like that part of it. They like the virtual part of it and the recording, the ability to audit it.
Yeah.
They also like that we'll be able to assign instructors and coaches to equipment because like you don't want me doing the Fronius stuff. I want Larry doing the Fronius equipment, and where I can handle the Miller equipment because I'm more familiar with it. We can go into the shop and say, okay, what equipment are you using, so we can assign the best coach for
And
it.
we're looking at a lot of stuff. I mean, being able to assess the quality of your welder and is it maintained and are you ready?
Yep.
Right. And there's several times when we started this with test shops where we got on that coaching call and we went, "You're not ready.
Yep.
You're not. I mean, we can't even get started because your equipment needs to be completely reworked or overhauled before we can get there."
Yep.
But it just is fantastic, and I've watched some of these replays,
Yeah.
and man, I love it. I put my management hat on, and I know it's different managing DRPs versus managing certified shops, but there's a whole lot that I have to take for face value when someone, I had this great service for my DRPs where the shops would upload pictures of their lobby and their bathroom and their parking area and whatever.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't the same as watching them work and to be able to go in and hit a button and go, oh, I can see that weld. Now, if I'm a shop owner and maybe I even have multiple locations, this is a great way for me to know how my techs are really, truly performing in their daily jobs. Can they really weld? So there is a lot of give in some things. This is one thing that's not a lot of give. And we're going to identify what the weaknesses are. So you may have a technician that's a fantastic welder, and I may be able to send him over somewhere and have him perform a weld to be tested, and he'd pass every time.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a horrible researcher. And then that means he can't apply things to the car. And once we identify what his weakness is, we can fix him.
Yeah.
Right? And then that means we're going to raise the repair quality across the board.
Yep. So it's available right now.
Right now.
You can go to collisionhub.com, click on the store link, and then click on the training link. There's the long URL right there to get to it. Once you make that purchase, we'll be in contact with you to kind of get you set up and walk you through the initial LMS process part of it, and we'll start scheduling that coaching session. I got a hunch we're going to need some coaches pretty soon. So if
we are going to need some coaches.
If you're interested in that, feel free to email me, jason@collisionhub.com, and we'll start that process.
Yeah, don't email me. I wouldn't know if you're a good coach or not. So, but when you do go in there, if you go to purchase, it is per technician. So if you want to do multiple technicians, you're going to need to choose multiple. It will ask you on a drop-down box if you know already the OE that you wish to pursue. If you do, that's great. If you don't and you just want to select one, then we will sort that out with you in the first coaching call. And we don't really necessarily need to know which OE you want to focus on until it's testing time. Because when you tell, let's say Jason, it's that rocker on the 2020 Nissan Sentra, we're going to go do all the research and be ready for you to give us your presentation.
Yep.
So think about, I got to write my thesis paper turn it in to the professor, and then the professor is going to watch me perform perform the job there, is exactly what this is. And so, be ready, because Jason's going to be ready, or Larry's going to be ready, or
there's some homework required, some pre-assignment on here, and again, we had that same issue where, and again, show it to Blaze and his team. Like when I turned that camera on, when they joined, they were ready to go. Kyle was ready to go. Some other ones,
not so much.
Well, what am I doing? So
but here's the thing. Some of them, though, I don't think weren't necessarily ready because they just didn't prepare. It was, but that they didn't know how to prepare.
Right.
So we identified there's your gap right there.
Yep.
And very short. Now, when I do the follow-ups, because I followed up on you, and I know you've heard about some of it, right? So I would go behind you and follow up with the owners and go, I want to know what you think. I want to know what your techs think. I didn't get a single negative feedback. And I got a lot of techs that would jump on the phone with me and go, God, Kristen, I really love the one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
Because I noticed rewatching your replays, a lot of other questions came up. So while we were there with one goal, the techs were asking other questions and you were able to fill that in. But so the techs loved the one-on-one coaching aspect of it. The owners loved finding out that they had gaps. So I did have some owners that got on the phone with me and going, Kristen, I volunteered for this because I thought I was awesome.
Yep.
And I thought I was going to show you, and because who wants to get on the phone with Collision Hub and show their underbelly, so to speak, right? So he goes, I thought we had it, and then we didn't. And so now I'm thinking, oh my God, other cars that had gone out the back of the shop, maybe I didn't know what I thought I knew.
Yep.
So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Still got a lot of work to do. We got to go build a lot of those OEM programs here, get them out. But that's going to be, when I get back later this week and next week, that's going to be job number one. But keep me on my toes, right? But I'm excited about it. I said I was really looking forward to coming down here. I was kind of hoping we could have announced it last week because I was so excited about it, but it didn't really fit into our workflow process. But collisionhub.com, click on the store and sign up for the training. And we're looking for feedback. And again, we're working with some beta testing with some OEMs right now for their network as kind of a maybe either a replacement for their current welding requirements or as a capstone. So again, go through the basics, understand how to do some welding, and then let's cap it off with that OE specific.
If you want to be a true you want to be a true badass in this industry, to be able to say Collision Hub is signed off on your welding. To make Larry have to sign off on your welding.
So we're getting a new hashtag, Chub Weld, hashtag Chub Weld.
We shall see. All
right. Well, that's it. What we got?
What's next?
We're back at noon, right, guys? BTEC? Oh, you're not the BTEC.